Hello, this is w.i.t.c.h.aholic, and I'm making a video about my version of a witch reboot. If you watch my videos, I made a video a while ago about I wanted to write my own version of a witch reboot, and I finally did it. Well, at least the prologue, which is on fanfiction.net. Um, I hope to release, of course, more chapters things. But this franchise is something. You know, it took a while just to get the epilogue, which is pretty short. But just to write, and set up the general world building, that will hopefully come into play more in the rest of the chapters. Just that already took a while, but that's done. So hopefully, writing the rest won't take too long. But I'm the type of author who doesn't use outlines. So I love to hear any of your advice and feedback if you want to help me write it. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about what I'm planning and some of the changes and things, because I had to make some changes. Now, first I have to quickly say, I hope this will be very well known and liked in the fandom. But even if that happens, it will still be a fan version. So I was thinking if we should all ask, Disney, on social media to try rebooting this franchise again, because it actually needs one. But considering how they screwed up the reboot and and when it comes to the original, it's the decisions they made, it's were they trying to make their own franchise fail? Because some of the decisions they made was weird. And so this series actually needed a reboot, and when we got one, it was more like an original story with witch characters. Did I think the team was all new people, and they didn't. So did they at least read the wiki pages or anything? And also to make a reboot and not have any of the people who worked on the franchise before and is familiar with it. So I don't even know if we should try to ask them to reboot it, because who knows? So anyway, again, well, I do like writing it. Again, I want this to be a fan project. So, please share this and the story with, all your friends who are fans. I would love to hear your suggestions, and hopefully incorporate some of them into this project. It would be really cool if someone could make a TV tropes page and or a fan comic about it, when it gets, more chapters are written, you know. So anyway, a bit about what I planned this to be. Now the original comics had 11 arcs. I'm aiming to write 6 arcs. Each arc will be roughly the storyline of the one in the comics, but again, because I have to make changes, again, it's roughly. The first one will probably be the most similar, and the others we'll have like probably we'll have some characters at least, but I don't think some of the plots will really happen. Like the trial of the Oracle. I'm not sure about that whole plot. Well, a lot of it. Also, when it comes to like characters like Phobos, oh, they did him dirty. Like definitely, when I have like changes and to his and some others' characters and the outcomes, and then things that I'm thinking of putting in, but that were in later arcs. Again, will probably be put in, in one of these 6 arcs. So like earlier than in canon, but even if I did do a little more than 6 arcs, like some things, again, they just make more sense to have earlier, to like at least to set up, you know. Um. Anyway, now for this. Again, like I said, there were changes, and now some of the changes are the characters' names, which, oh, it really pained me, especially, when it came to some, like, major characters, but, after I read on TV tropes that Hei and Tarani aren't Chinese and African names, respectively, I did some research, and I found that to be true, so I was doing, like, a lot of research on, like, names of a lot of the characters, and, now that I did all that, I have to change their names and some other characters, because I can't have characters with names that are not only culturally accurate, but, like, seem to be been made up. Which, by the way, talking about the names, like, the world building, situation is bad enough, but when it comes to the names, it's like, what's going on? Like, there are hints that this is, in America, and now most of the characters' names are pretty common for America, right? Or other English speaking countries. But then you get to, like, our main girls' names, and it's like, I'll talk more about it when I get to them, but it's like, what happened? Like, the author seemed to know what regular American names are, so why does that seem to change by some of these characters? Um, does anyone like know what the author's social media accounts are? Like, I need someone to ask them. Like, what was the thought process for like the names and some of the world building? Like, especially the names, because it looks like they did research in some areas, but they stopped doing the research by some names. So like, what happened? Like, I need to know. So anyway, about the names, starting with the ones that in the epilogue that you'll see, which was about Escanor, his wife, and his 4 knights. There's a bunch of specials. So these are in the Elion special, where Elion learns from w.i.t.c.h that her ancestor is a human named Escanor, who was chosen by the Oracle to help the Galhats. And he came with his 4 knights, and then his wife Leren came over, and and he was given the throne, and so she became queen. And then there were 4 knights in Meridian, one for each of his knights. So it says came from England, but not what century, but it looks like regular medievalish like clothes, so that like looks to be like the period. And the thing is, most of the names are actually like plausible. Um, Again, there's Escanor, and then his wife Leren. His knights are Howell, Brandis, Didier, and Grendel. And now Escanor was the name of two characters from Arthurian legend. Howell was also from Arthurian legend, and there were two dukes with the name in the 10th century. Brandis is a name with Old English roots, and Grendel is actually an Anglo-Saxon name. And the Anglo-Saxons were, the people who lived there hundreds of years ago. I think that's where we get the name England from the tribes, the Angles. I think they were actually German tribes, which is why Germany, English was more of a Germanic language until something which I'll talk about very soon. Now, Didier is a French name. Could be plausible that a Frenchman came, but Laren is not a medieval name. It's actually a Spanish American name. So, again, they seem to do the research for the other names, but not for her. And then there's the fact that according to w.i.t.c.h.aholic, they lived at the time of Richard the Lionheart. There wasn't a source. I can't imagine someone just making this up and then lying that the authors said it. But, and with that in mind, thing is, Richard the Lionheart was after 1066 when William the Conqueror conquered England, which is how French became a big part of the English language. And because of that, royalty and nobility took a Norman, or rather French names. So, again, Didier is a French name, so like, is that a coincidence or something? So now that I know that, I had to change their names. So they now have Norman names of the period. I do have to say, when it comes to changing theirs and other characters' names, I was focusing more on culture and having at least the first letter of the original name. I know part of a name is also like if it's old-fashioned. Part of like naming a character is if it was old-fashioned or common at the time, which is gonna be my complaint for some of the characters' names, but it already took so much time to research culturally accurate names to make sure that the names weren't old-fashioned. But also names could be old-fashioned because, right, there's always parents naming their kids names that are old-fashioned or not so common. So anyway, Escanor is now Evralt, and his knights are Henri, Geoffrey, still Didier, that's how it's pronounced, because that was a name then, and Bram. Did I get them all? Bram, Didier, yeah, Geoffrey, and Henri. And his wife is now Leon. Now, to the main characters and their families. Now, again, we have like in order Will's family again. Her parents' names are Susan and Thomas, and she's Wilhelmina. Like, when did you hear of an American girl named Wilhelmina? That's because, yeah, it was a popular name in the early 1900s. So, like, again, they seem to do the research. when it came to her parents' names, but not to her. What's going on? That's probably why they changed it to Wilma in the cartoon, but that was also popular in the 1900s. So, like, what? Also, according to a comment on one of my other videos, the writer said one time Susan was supposed to be Southern Italian, but then her name should be Susanna. And the writers are Italian, right? So, really, what happened there? But now that I know that, okay, Susan's gonna be Italian, and her name is Susanna. Will is gonna have an Italian middle name. Her name is now Wilhelmina Vittoria, after grandmother on each side, and she's not fond of that name either, so she still will. Also, we see in one of the later arcs, arcs much later, one of the books, like Will goes to France to study French. I'll probably have that she likes French, but I'll probably have it that she knows Italian, because of her mother, but like it depends, just because your mother's from another country or your father speaks another language doesn't necessarily mean you'll be familiar with the language. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna try to like incorporate like Italian culture and stuff. The same for the other cultures. Okay, then comes to Irma. And again, her parents' names are Thomas and Anna. Her brother is Christopher, but she's Irma. And also, Irma was also a name like in the early 1900s in America. So, like, what the heck happened? I really need someone to ask the authors these questions. I need to know. Now, Irma is actually a German name and usually part of longer German names like Ermentrude. Like, again, I already had to change Halen and Terani's names as I'll talk, so I didn't really want to change these. And also, I don't know, parents could like old fashioned names. Um, so in this reboot, Anna is gonna be German, and that's why her name's Irma. But because it's not a very common name in America, and it wasn't at that point, which was probably around the 2000s, because the comic book came out in 2004, right? So that's probably when it's set. So it means the girls were born like in the 1991. So since the name wasn't common then, in this universe, her name is going to be Irma Danielle. So she has a more American middle name that she can use, but she likes the name Irma. Also in the comics, like Anna is her stepmother. I'm not sure yet if I'm changing that. Again, I'm one of those authors who don't use outlines and there's like a lot of details, but like I'm gonna try to at least, if not an outline, at least write down things, I'm gonna change and keep track. And hopefully, all the figuring out stuff won't take too long, and I'll, you know, start, writing and releasing the other chapter soon. Oh, also another thing, I hope to, since I'm talking about them, I hope to have more of the family members of the girls. So of course, I'll be. So then that means a lot of them will be original characters, and stuff, and the also like I plan that magic is like more common and known about on Earth, so there'll be changes again because that just makes more sense about people knowing magic exists, because with all the magic stuff, the things that we keep on seeing in new arcs that are in Heatherfield. I mean, come on. How's this still a secret or something? It just makes sense to have it that's more like common, more known about. Um, so anyway, now on to Tarani's family, which, whew, first of all, again, her mother looks Asian, but nothing is said in the comic books if she's Asian, which also, like, it could just be like, but why would they draw her to look Asian if she's not supposed to be Asian? Oh, what is going on with this franchise? I really need someone to like ask the authors these questions. But anyway, she looks Asian. I thought of her as Japanese, and I actually saw someone else online think of her as Japanese, and the Tarani's new name could be an African and a Japanese name. So that is perfect. And so this reboot, she's Japanese. And since Teresa's not a Japanese name, her name is Teruko. Now on to Lionel, her, right, Tarani's father. Now, he's black, but just because you're black doesn't mean you're gonna have a black name or an African name, right? So Lionel, right, I'm gonna keep. But again, like, they're all regular names, and then her name is Tarani. What happened? I mean, there could be reasons in the universe, but, like, still. And then Peter, now his middle name is Lancelot for some reason. Like, I can't imagine too many parents naming their kid that, unless they like King Arthur or something. Again, so in this universe, his name is Peter Leo, because Leo is actually also a Japanese name, and Leo means lion, Lionel means lion. I think it specifically means lion cub. So anyway, this like on, it honors his mother's Japanese heritage, and it's like naming him after his father, right? Also, but like in a more creative way. Also, in this universe, like, I don't think I'll have him dye his goatee red. I don't know. That's just something that looks so weird in the comics. Him and Phobos, like, why are they designed that way? I don't think I'll be having that. Anyway, then we have Tarani, which I guess they wanted her to have like an African name. I mean, in universe, again, her parents could have decided that Peter would have a more American name and Tarani not. Also, in the comics, right, we learn Tarani's adopted, but like a lot of things, it just doesn't get mentioned after. So, yeah, I don't think she's adopted in this reboot. I don't think. I think they'll be her biological parents. But anyway, Tarani isn't an African name. It's a Hindu name. So, what the heck happened? They just decided to not do research and just make up a name? I need someone to ask the authors on social media these questions. Like, what the heck? This doesn't make sense. So, anyway, now that I know that, I mean, I just can't have her keep a name that's not accurate. I mean, I guess I could just then make them Indians now or Hindus, but that also seems to be like a much bigger change. So Tarani is now Tamika, because that's an African and a Japanese name. So it's perfect. And then Cornelia, which is it Cornelia or Cornelia? I think Cornelia. Again, not such a common name, and then her sister is Lillian, which is more common. So in universe, considering how we see like how her grandmother acts when she's in the comics, in universe, her grandmother Vera was very insistent that they name her Theodora. Um, I think it's gonna be her mother. Um, uh, and because she's very insistent, her parents agreed, but only if that was her middle name. And so they chose Cornelia, which is more common, and also something again that Vera wouldn't be annoying about. So her name is Cornelia Theodora. Like I'm making changes anyway. Um, again, I hope I probably will like mention these details like in the chapter. But for any of you watching it, I'll tell you now anyway. Um, that's that. Also, I am thinking of keeping the Heart of Earth plotline from the cartoon, because also I think it like makes sense with like the changes I made. I'm just not sure like how and when to do it. Then we have Hale. And Hey is not a Chinese name. Well, it's a Chinese last name, but not a first name. Joan isn't a Chinese name either. Joan Lin happens to be the name of Jackie Chan's wife, but Joan is not a Chinese name. But Lin is a perfectly good Chinese last name and girl's name. Yanlin is a Chinese name, but with no space between the Yan and Lin. Chen and Feng, who's a cook, have regular Chinese names, and so does Shinjing. So, like, what happened? Especially since they were originally going to name Halen Malin, or Malin, though they spelled it M-A-I, and that's a Chinese name, but it's spelled M-E-I, so, like, I don't know. So, I mean, now that I know that, I can't have her name be inaccurate, so, Halen is now Hylan. I think that's how you pronounce it. I know Chinese is a tonal language, but so even if I like looked up the pronunciation, I probably won't really pronounce it correctly because of the tones. But Hailan Lin, which by the way in China would be Lin Hailan. They have the last name first. So that's it. And also Joanne's name is now Juan. So Yanlin is her first name. So right, so she'll still be Yanlin. Though according to a pronunciation guide, Yan is pronounced Yen. So I'm gonna think of her as Yanlin. But just so you know, so it looks like it's more accurate to say Yanlin. Okay, then there's chicken. Okay. Almost done. And again, there will probably be some changes like to their background. Again, I'm not sure if they'll still be previous Guardians or not. Now, first of all, again, last names. Nerissa's given the last name Krosnick in the cartoon, which what kind of last name is that? Also, it doesn't really fit with what I have in mind for her. Then Ganlin is again her first name, so I'm gonna give her like a Chinese. Probably gonna give her a last name. Like mention that somewhere. Um, And then the others, it doesn't have their names in canon, but when you see like their profiles, like on Witch Wiki, they have the last names. So I guess a fan made them up somehow and just, does anyone know the story behind that? Like, I'd love to know. How exactly does someone just make the names up and then pretend that they're canon? So, Cassidy and Narissa were actually commonish names around the times they were probably born. Cassidy is Irish, so a name, so she's Irish in this reboot. Her last name is Moore. Now, Narissa, she does have darker skin. Um, William Shakespeare made the name from Greek, but I mean, it doesn't seem to be like a name used by Greeks. So I'm not sure. I was thinking of making her Greek, though maybe Italian. I do want to have all the witch girls and the chicken related in some way, so I'm not sure if she's like Italian or Greek. Oh, also, I forgot to mention, but like, while this is going to be as close to the comics as possible, there will also be stuff from the cartoon, stuff, of course, that I made up, stuff that I've seen other people's, and other people's fan fictions and whatever. Um, and I saw like a wild mask guests on TV tropes that all the Guardians are related, chicken and witch, because similarities. I really like that. Also, someone pointed out that young Narissa and Susan look pretty similar, and there's the fact that William has magic, which that must mean Susan has magic blood. Also, now that I mentioned William, his name will probably be changed when he when I get to him in this reboot. Like seriously, having Wilhelmina and William and calling them. I mean, his name could be William and his nickname Bill, but still, his name will probably be changed. Um. So anyway, yeah, back to Narissa, but I don't think Narissa's really an Italian name either. So I'm not sure. I mean, I like the name, but I don't know. I might have to like change it. Um, like I said, Yanlin is a Chinese name, and I didn't pick a last name for her, but I'll probably be mentioned in one of the later chapters. And then we have Halinar and Kedma. Ugh, sorry about that, I forgot. I just wanted to mention something about Halen, that it actually, Halen, without the space between the Hey and the Lin, actually is a American name. There are 300 something records of parents, American parents naming their kids. I think it's from 1880 to 2021. But again, from all that time, there's only like 300 something records. So, like, did they just like make up a name also? Um, Also, there's a lot of different names, like variances on Helen, like Haylen, that are recorded as being used by parents, but generally, like only a few hundred. So I just wonder if they like read it. So, but again, also it's not like a Chinese name. So what's going on? Someone please ask the authors. Anyway, Halinar. When did you hear of someone named Halinor? Again, it doesn't seem to be like a name that was used. I don't think like on any of the sites it said there were like records of parents naming their daughter that. So, like, in fact, when you type in Halinor, you get results for the witch character. So, like, what the heck? So, like, especially like there are a lot more common names like from the root, like like Helen, um, and like Helena. Is it Helena? Uh, Where did they get the name? I need someone to ask the authors. So her name is gonna be changed, and then there's Kadma, which, yeah, according to one website, it's a name in Indonesia, Brazil, and India. But when I tried to do further research, I didn't see the name on a list from any of the from list of baby names from this country. So, like, again, did they just decide not to do research and to make up a name? Because if that's so, that's just ridiculous. Like, what? Now, since she has a darker skin, I decided to, just make her Brazilian. Um, so her name is now changed to reflect that, and her name is Karina Luisa Santos. And then finally we get to Elion, which, again, there actually have been like 215 recorded instances from Social Security where parents named their kid Elion, but like, how did they get the name? Like, what? Now, Elion is actually from the Bible. And those pronounced Elion. And in canon, her right, her ancestor came from Great Britain. At a time when there was Christianity. So I'm not sure if this was their intention, but since it makes sense in universe, because of that, so they brought Christianity to Metamor, and now there's some Christian influences, such as names from the Bible. That's also why Phobos got his name, because they also well, oh no, I don't want to change Phobos's name, but like, what they give their Christians, what they give their people's names from Greek mythology. Okay, so in this universe, there's also some travel later on between the worlds. So, anyway, so in this universe, yeah, there's of course names from Menamor, their culture, but there's also gonna be names from, but also a lot of the names are from like the Bible and medieval England. Um, whatever the Ivrolt and his men brought over. Of course, different spellings probably. Um, so anyway, so Elion's name has the reason in universe, but I'm thinking like I'll probably change it to something on. I'll probably, again, like, her parents are like Thomas and Eleanor. So like, so I'll probably have that they also gave Eliana like more common name when they were raising her on Earth. Whew. Okay, that's I think that's through all the name changes. Yes, quite long, but after all the research I did, I had to like talk about it again. If you after you read the prologue, I love to hear your comments, suggestions. I love to hear again as I release more chapters, hopefully not too long. I also love to hear your comments and suggestions, and I'll see you again next time.